Welcome to another edition of A Week of Mass Shootings. All right, there were 11 mass shootings last week, so we're still in the double digits each week, which should sustain at least through probably around Thanksgiving. We should stay in around the double digits. We had 18 last week and 11 this week, so things are starting to slow down a little bit. We've had 597 this year as of November 5th. So we'll hit that 600 mark, within a few days likely. And we're still a week behind the 2021 pace. And if you've been watching for a while, you know that we were ahead of pace by quite a bit for a while till about the end of August is where I think things started shifting. We had a couple of weeks that we barely reported any that was a little suspect. So now we're behind the 2021 record-breaking pace of 690, but we're 1 to 2 weeks ahead of where we were last year at this time. So we're still not doing very well when it comes to mass shootings. But let's start. Our first one was on October 30th in Minneapolis, and 4 were injured, and this was the 8th one for Minneapolis this year. And all 4 of the victims were female, which is something that I've been noting in these videos a lot, is that the victims used to be all males in these, and now it's a lot of times it's a lot of females, and every once in a while you'll even get a female that's the shooter, but in this one all the victims were female. And this happened at a party inside a former bar called the Whiskey Junction that closed in 2017. I don't know how they got into the building to have this or have this party, but apparently they were having a party inside that building. Happened at 3:18 a.m., and they're calling this one a drive-by. Okay, on October 31st on Halloween, we only had 1 on Halloween, which is pretty good because Halloween, if you saw one of my previous videos, Halloween is the 5th most dangerous holiday as far as mass shootings go. But we only had 1 this year, and that happened in Selena, California, and 7 people were injured. And this was the first one for Salinas. And it's basically just listed as a Halloween party. It happened at 11:35 p.m. at a house. And there really wasn't a whole lot of other information on it. On November 1st in Dallas, Texas, and also if you saw my last video on this, that November 1st, the day after Halloween, not technically a holiday, but it has the 6th most, so it's just behind Halloween as far as having the most mass shootings over a 5-year span. And there was 1 that day in that Dallas, Texas. 5 were injured, and it was the 11th one for Dallas this year. And Dallas we don't talk about too much, but Dallas, it used to be a lot safer than Houston, and I would still probably say it's safer than Houston, but it's getting bad. And this one was called the Driveby, and it happened at 1:30 a.m. and it just says it happened just south of Fair Park, and there wasn't too much information on that. There were none on November 2nd, so we moved to November 3rd. And that November 2nd, this has been now a couple weeks since we had a day that we didn't have one, because I think we went all last week without missing a day. I'd have to look back on that, but we went quite a few days without going with a day that didn't have one. But on November 2nd, we didn't have one. So November 3rd in Cincinnati, Ohio, 1 was killed and 5 injured, and this is the 5th one for Cincinnati this year. And at least 3 of the victims were teens or young, and the rest were younger, teens or younger. So all 6 of them were young. 11-year-old was killed. It happened at 9:30 p.m. and they have no idea what happened or what led to the shooting, because kids that age typically don't talk to the police. All right, we go to November 4th in Cleveland, Richmond Heights. 1 was killed and 3 injured, and this is the 10th one for Cleveland this year. And our suspect is Raymond Melton, and he's the one that's on the thumbnail. He was not arrested, at least at the time of the making of this video, although they knew who he was. It was a family gathering. It happened at 2:45 a.m. And Melton is said to be 6 feet tall, 145 pounds. So this dude is really skinny. And he drives a cream 2012 Kia or a dark blue 2008 BMW. And if you see him, call 911. All right, November 5th in Phoenix, Arizona, 4 were injured. And this is the third one for Phoenix this year. One victim was a teen. It happened at 12:30 a.m. at a large gathering. And it was an argument that turned into gunfire, which is basically what the majority of these are. These people get into a fight, and instead of being able to just get in a fight and one person leaving, or, even getting into a physical fight and ending it, they always have to turn to guns. And that was the case in Phoenix. Okay, also November 5th, Tacoma, Washington. 2 were killed and 3 injured. And this is the first one for Tacoma this year. A 35-year-old man and a 34-year-old female were killed. It happened at 1:30 a.m. at the Alleycat Patio and Lounge Bar. You can use your imagination on what kind of bar that probably is. The Alleycat suspect turns himself in at 4:30 p.m. that day. So the suspect turned himself in later that day. And it basically was a dispute between the suspect and one of the victims, and he ended up, killing 2 and injuring 3 others. And I didn't get, from reading the article that I read on it, I didn't get whether the person he had tried to kill was one of the people that actually died, or if the 2 that died were innocent victims. But nonetheless, 1 was the intended target, and the other 4 were innocent in the situation. Okay, November 5th, again, there's a lot on November 5th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. The rest of them are all November 5th. Okay, Waller, Texas, 8 were injured. And this is the first one for Waller, Texas, and it was a homecoming party for the Prairie View A&M University. And Waller, I looked it up because I'd never heard of it, is northwest of Houston, just outside the suburbs area. So it's a little ways away, a little outside of Houston, but it's out that way. And that was the first one there. November 5th, again, Indianapolis. 1 was killed and 4 injured. And this was the 8th one for Indy this year. And it happened at the GZ Karaoke Club. Okay, we have an adult male that was killed. 1 female and 3 males were injured, and they were all aged between 23 and 29. And this, again, is an argument that led to gunfire. Happened at about 1:20 a.m. November 5th in Atlanta, Georgia, 6 were injured. This is a 5th one for Atlanta, and it was a gathering in front of a home. Basically, a car pulled up across the street, and they say it parked there. And then people just started firing from inside the car. Okay, and also on November 5th in Denver, Colorado, 2 were killed and 6 were injured, and this is the 6th one for Denver, and this is the largest one we had this week. Last week we had 3 that had over 15 victims. This week we have 2 that had 8 victims, and that was the most. And this is the largest with 2 dead and 6 injured. And it happened at the Hells Lovers Motorcycle Club. 1 female and the rest were male. Happened around 3 a.m. Said there was multiple shooters, and that this one was gang related. So this one, our top cops would not consider an actual mass shooting because gang related shootings do not count in their tally. But if you're thinking of moving to Denver, you need to look into what's going on in Denver, because it was once a nice city, but it's going downhill fast. And they've only had 6 mass shootings this year, which is 1 more than Atlanta, which everybody knows is on the bad side. But Denver's not a safe city anymore. And if you're planning on moving there because you think it's going to be all nice, and it's just not a nice city anymore. Okay, so of these 11, 7 occurred at large gatherings, 3 happened at a bar, and 1 was a drive-by. And 7 people were killed and 61 people injured, and only 2 of the suspects were arrested. And most of them happened between midnight and 3 a.m., which again proves your mother was right when she says nothing good happens after midnight. This is a weekly video, so if you like this type of content, Hit that like button, leave your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing. And I'll catch you next week.